Merry Christmas, everyone. It's great to see you all on Christmas Day. I hope you've all enjoyed reading our Advent book together this year. And today, on Christmas Day, we've reached the last instalment. Christmas Day is inevitably a hectic day for many of us. And the story of Ruth has often gone at breakneck speed. So to wrap up Finding Hope Under Bethlehem Skies, we're going to celebrate Jesus' birth by joining up the dots from the book of Ruth to Matthew's Gospel. I'm not going to read it all today, but it might help you to have a Bible open at Matthew chapter 1. And what you'll find there is a long list of names called a genealogy. It's basically Jesus' family tree. For the first readers of the book of Ruth, the family tree at the end of Ruth chapter 4 must have been fascinating. Having got to know Ruth, Naomi and Boaz, picture their reaction when discovering just where the story ends up. The miraculous firstborn of this Moabite widow would become the grandfather of Israel's greatest king, David. Imagine if you tried telling that to Ruth or Naomi as they returned to Bethlehem in chapter 1. But as we read the opening to Matthew's Gospel, we see that King David isn't the end of the story either. David is just a hint of a much greater summit. Jesus, who is called the Messiah or Christ. As Matthew begins his account of Jesus' life, he traces Jesus' lineage all the way through David back to Abraham. God has promised Abraham that his offspring would be a blessing to the whole world. And now Matthew shows us how Jesus is the fulfillment of that promise. But as we make our journey from Abraham to Jesus, Matthew also makes a point of stopping off along the way in all kinds of intriguing places. And that's because he wants us to see the kinds of people that Jesus' family tree includes. For starters, it was highly unusual to include any women. And yet Matthew here goes out of his way to mention 5, including Ruth herself. And this certainly isn't a greatest hit of Israel's history. Anne Voskamp puts it like this: Jesus' arrival was through families of messed up monarchs and battling brothers, through affairs and adultery and more than a feud or two, through skeletons in closets and cheaters at tables. And neither of Jesus' ancestors restricted to being Israelites. In particular, Ruth herself was a Moabite. It's a clear indication that Jesus' heart would be for the nations. John Piper captures it like this: just as his blood was shed for the nations, so the nations' blood ran in his veins. Perhaps our final encouragement, though, should be personal. The pastor Sam Albury notes that this family tree highlights how the kind of people Jesus comes from anticipates the kind of people Jesus has come for. However our Christmas Day goes, whether it meets our expectations or whether the cracks appear far more quickly than we'd like, Jesus has come for people like us, outsiders and oddballs, sinners and sufferers and strangers, the wanderers and the weary, heartbroken widows like Naomi, and hopeful daughters-in-law like Ruth. The Christmas carol, Once in Royal David City, is all about Jesus being born in the town of Bethlehem. And one verse says these words: "He came down to earth from heaven, who is God and Lord of all. And his shelter was a stable, and his cradle was a stall. With the poor and meek and lowly, lived on earth our Saviour, holy." Give thanks to the Lord for the gift of Jesus, who rewrites our stories and writes us into his story. Pray that the wonder of this might dwell in your hearts over this busy but special Christmas day. A very happy Christmas from me and all the other Joneses here. We love you all. God bless you all this Christmas time.